Hello there, my name is Matt and welcome to this bonus episode of The Tyre Kickers. Now, we recently did a live version of this podcast from the NEC Classic Motor Show up in Birmingham. If you've not yet had a chance to check it out, do so. It stars Paul Cowland from Salvage Hunters Classic Cars, and it was a really fun episode to do. Well, as part of that, we interviewed the guys from the Jaguar XJS Club who were at the show. And we talked about how the XJS is becoming a great buy now and something really worth a second look. Now, we used a clip of it in the show, but you know what? It was such a good chat. We thought you might like to hear it in full. So here it is. Enjoy. So we've come over to the XJS Club stand in the middle of this massive show. I mean, it's like a maze trying to find anything here. But I found the cars, and I found three people passionate about the cars: Ian, Richard and Simon. Guys, for years this car was called an ugly duckling, but it's starting to turn into a bit of a swan, isn't it?
Oh, it's a beautiful car. You have to remember that back in the day in the 1960s with Malcolm Sayer, the aeronautical engineer who designed these, the buttresses and the frontal area is all done calculated manually, and it's form over function there. It's just a beautiful thing, and I don't understand why people get so surprised when they say, oh, it's suddenly a Vogue thing and it's so contemporary now. It's always, in my eyes, been a beautiful car. I grew up, my best friend's father was a director. He had a brand new one in 1987, fully loaded, and you got inside of that thing and the smell of the leather, the woodwork veneer, it's just an absolutely beautiful car, and I've adored them ever since.
They were always seen as flash cars back in the 80s, but they got a bad rap after that. What happened?
I think really the XJS is the new E-Type in terms of demographic, really, because the guys that are buying these cars, I restore them with a business partner, and we're seeing 55-something-year-olds with a passion, not for E-Types anymore, but they want the XJS because it's what they remember. It's the Simon Templar back in the 70s there when it came out. We all remember that. But we grew up with it, and it's the car that we love. E-Types are lovely. We restore them, but they are fast approaching the new E-Type, I would call it. I've been saying it for years, and it's starting to happen, especially in terms of value.
We've just had Halloween, Ian, but I've always thought these were quite scary in terms of running them. Is that
Very
true?
Yeah, I think I've got a V12 actually. This is mine, my red one over here. And I must admit, I'll be totally honest, the XJS was never something that really struck me. It was the V12 engine. So I got to that time in life 12 years ago and thought I need something with a V12 engine in. I had too many gin and tonics and I bought one on eBay.
We've all been there.
And I went and picked it up from Lincoln, and then I fell in love with it. That was an 88 coupe with the buttresses. Obviously the convertible doesn't have that. I'm not mechanically minded at all in any way, and I've done bits on this. I've changed the belts on the V12. I think the problem is, you can see from the engine that's behind his ears, which doesn't work well on a podcast, but it's well rammed in, and I think the problem is they're designed to be put together on a production line. So afterwards, trying to change anything is a bit of a challenge. But no, it's not as scary as it looks, really. And to me, the V12 is the ultimate engine. It's the best part of the car, really.
Yeah, is this a V12 we're looking at here?
Yes,
yeah, it is. Now, see, that's quite scary to me, and I think I have looked at XJSs in the past and thought this is really nice. As you say, the interior is sumptuous, and then you pop the bonnet up and you go, oh my God, I don't want to be paying for that.
This V12 is an engine that started its life in the Series 3 E-Types, so that was the first offering from there, and then it was amalgamated into the new E-Type, which was the XJS at the time there. And it's proved itself to be incredibly reliable, it's proved itself to be long-lasting, and it's got oodles of power when you want them, but it's also incredibly smooth as well. It's a pound coin resting on top of the camshafts there, kind of vehicle there. And
I think a lot of the bad press for the V12s are the ones that haven't been looked after.
Sure.
So there's plenty of horror stories on the internet. Oh, my car overheated in traffic, or I can't work on these. And I think some of that is just scaremongering. If you've got a well-sorted V12 that's regularly serviced and the fans work, the radiator is fully functional, they will withstand the traffic. I got stuck on the infamous M5 during holiday season once with mine, and it's 12 hours on the M5 stop-start. It never had a problem at all. But you do hear these horror stories where people, or they put the wrong coolant in, for example, and it causes corrosion, or sludge builds up in the system, or they just don't look after them. So you hear these horror stories of, oh, the heads will warp on your V12. No, they won't. I have a similar. Mine's actually been converted to a manual, so mine's actually a 5-speed manual V12, and I get told off. You drive it like a Ferrari. It's like you'll bend a valve or you'll drop a valve. No, if you're properly serviced and well looked after and well maintained or well restored, such as Simon's one here, you won't have a problem with them. It's as good as that.
Right, quick fire round here for all of you guys. Lean in. Right, what's the best things about owning an XJS?
Driving experience for mine.
I would say the versatility of the car. It's a tourer and a sports car in one.
Yeah, V12 for me, all day long. It's all about the engine. And that makes you forget about the ungalvanised steel panels that rock back to the earth faster than a can on a beach.
Well, let's get into the maybe negative things. I mean, I'm surprised to see you here. I thought you might be filling up at a petrol station.
I did that already.
Are they a bit thirsty, girls?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I mean, there are variants that are even more thirsty. So this one here, more of mine is a Lister, which was an aftermarket modifier. I'm lucky if you get 10 miles a gallon out of that. The same with sort of the Hyper Sports, which are another aftermarket.
Right.
So yeah, it is a thirsty beast, but fun.
Yeah, it's a Shell V-Power. I joke with the cashier, can I pay you in 12 easy instalments? But to be honest, I'm not doing a big mileage in it. My example, for example, would do maybe 750 miles a year. It would be events like this, special occasions. So you really value and appreciate that experience. I've even taken mine on track. So the MPG will really plummet. But you don't buy a V12 on an 850cc mini budget. It is what it is, and you make no apology for that. It's just the driving experience, and as Ian said, it's a V12. Where else are you going to get a V12 that's affordable and that's strong?
Yeah, it's part of the ownership experience. I'd done 1,800 odd miles around France this year in mine, and
you have a petrol tanker following you all the way.
You have to. You do have to. Yeah, the guy, that was the standing joke. There's so many pictures of me filling the car up, but it's just part of the experience of owning it, really. And I think I'd never seen that as a negative at all. I think if there are any negatives, the ungalvanised steel and the old manufacturing processes and drilling holes on the line, which is what they did back in the day, is what kills them off eventually, and why you've got to do big restorations like Simon's done. But I think when Ford took over Jaguar, then the galvanised steel came in. There was no more drilling holes on the line, so these sort of facelift ones now are a better quality car overall. But I actually do like the pre-facelift cars. I think they're a little bit more classic, and we'll pocket the petrol bill for that.
So if someone listening to this thinking, well, do you know what, I might give them a second look, I might buy an XJS. Give us your off-the-cuff top tips about getting into an XJS. What have you got to look for? What do you got to spend? That sort of thing.
Get some professional advice on the structure of the vehicle, because they have a hidden danger of rot, as Ian mentioned before there. In particular, the sills, inner outer sills, there are jacking points. There are standard points that are all affected by rust on the XJS. On the more modern one, the facelift, the scuttle, for instance, is 90% of the cars are affected with some serious rot on that. But they can be put right. It's not the end of the world there, and for not a great deal of money really at the moment, because we're not in the E-type parts world yet. We're not on the ridiculous cost of parts there in there. So, it's a good investment if you pick the right one and get the right advice first.
So checking the car out sort of structurally, that's sort of basic classic car now. But what's particular about the XJS in terms of, how do we find a good car? What does a good car look like?
I think, as Simon said, you have to start off with a solid car. Find the best one you can. Also, I wouldn't rule out the straight sixes. In fact, they're easier to work on. And actually, I'd argue the later ones here, the AJ16, which is the final run-out version of the straight 6 4-litre, is probably one of the most robust engines that Jag ever made. I'll go out on a limb and say that. I think they're really, really good, low maintenance, and you've got more space to work on it. So if you want to be your first XJS and you want to work on it yourself, then maybe you might want to start off with a straight 6 because they're easy to work on. I've done that myself in the past, but starting off with a good solid example, because the mechanics you can work through, bodywork is more expensive and more difficult. So
just some off-the-cuff prices at the moment. I know prices are all over the place, but for a convertible, for a coupe, what are we talking about for a relatively good user?
Yeah, I think it's varied, and they have gone up over the years. I mean, you only have to go sort of 5 or 6 years back, and the cars that you'd buy for £500 have now gone. Those days don't exist anymore. and there's a lot of guys breaking them for parts, and you'll still pay $2 or $3 grand. I think for a nice one that's rusty around the gills, you're probably looking at $7 or $8 grand, and then upwards for the convertibles, the later facelifts, the specials like Simon's Lister.
We can't afford that one.
I think the Sultan of Brunei is selling one in the auction there for 50 grand. So
what are you saying? So $8 grand for a coupe? Did you say?
I would say for for something that's a little bit rusty around the edges, but it's got potential, you'd get something for $8 grand-ish.
Okay. Convertible, 12, 13?
15, 17,
I think so.
15 to 17, maybe a really good condition one, 25 to 28, so...
Yes, the final celebration edition convertible one, so which would be about 1996, 25 to 30k for a nice one now.
From what you're saying, it sounds like don't cheap out on these cars. Go spend a bit more because it will save you longer save you more in the long run. So, sort of final thought then, the club scene, you guys don't seem too nerdy, you seem all right for classic car people. So it's quite a good club, quite a vibrant club, is it?
It is.
It is, and one of the great things is, there's several clubs that cater to the XJS, but the great thing about this one is we are a friendly bunch, and we don't just do cars in the field, we have that, but we also do drive at events as well. So there's an opportunity for people to actually use their cars, and nothing more exciting than seeing a row of XJSs making their way through the Cotswolds or something like that, and that's something we try and do and encourage as a club, and it's very inclusive as well. Yeah. We get all sorts coming to here, which is great.
So you're not one of those clubs that sits behind them in a camping chair with their arms folded then and doesn't...
Oh, there are some that do that, but we'll leave that one there.
Why are you looking at Ian?
Actually, no, definitely not Ian.
Yeah, we can be dysfunctional. Yeah. I think the one thing, the reason I joined, once I'd gone through the experience and got the V12 10 years ago was, as Richard was saying, there's plenty of Jaguar car clubs, but they're having to cover the full range of both classic and modern Jaguars, so it's very difficult to specialise down, and we find here now, especially with the forums, it's exponential. The more people you get in, there is always somebody who's been through exactly the same problem on either a pre-HE or an HE or a facelift that you've had. And we have a digital magazine each month. It's a one-off lifetime joining fee as well, so we're over about 2,300 members worldwide now. About 40% of those are outside of the UK because a lot of the XJS has ended up in the States. So yeah, it's gone from strength to strength actually as a club.
Okay, final thought then. Why should I get an XJS?
Because it will be the most exciting car you'll buy, and also potentially be a really good investment because you're going to get the money back because it's a rising value throughout the...
well, once you pay the petrol and the repair costs, I'm not quite sure. That's a moot point. But what's your thought?
I think you'll just fall in love with it, and also you'll get to know the car, its idiosyncrasies. You'll appreciate the engineering, even though it's still that BL influence there. You'll just appreciate its idiosyncrasies. It's a great experience sitting down, hunkering down behind the wheel, looking at that long bonnet, the whole driving experience. It's a head turner as well. People look around and go, wow, look at that. Especially my one with the noisy exhaust.
Do you reckon this is the best car that BL built?
Oh yeah, that's a long conversation. I think that's
not much competition, to be fair.
Podcast party. Yeah, I think. I agree. I think it's an appreciating classic, and it's the cheapest way to get a V12 engine in your life.
It's great to see the cars. Well done for representing them, and may you have more followers.
Thank you very much indeed.
Cheers, Matt.
Cheers.
Ian, Richard and Simon there from the XJS Club. And if you want to find out more about their club, do check out the website. It's xjsclub.org. That's xjsclub.org. Well, that's it for this bonus episode. If you're new to the Tyre Kickers, have a scroll through some of the other episodes and lose yourself in some great classic car chat. We have a new episode every 2 weeks. And get involved in the show. Let us know what you think. Post your comments on our Instagram feed. It's at the Tyre Kickers UK. I'll be back with Max and a new show very soon. But in the meantime, thanks for listening.